Adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman, W4CY Radio, and we're here with our Positively Pipeman segment. And we once again have our expert CFO in the house. So let's welcome Michael Barbarita from Next Step CFO. How are you?
Excellent. Thank you for having me, Dean.
Hey, my pleasure.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, cold calling.
Yes. So I'll start out by saying when God wanted to punish a salesperson, he created the cold call. However, the reason why I'm bringing it up as a topic is because a lot of people like myself started their business that way, and it's still a very effective way to communicate your product or service and to get business. It's incredible, but it is. It sounds awful, but it is. As a matter of fact, I even heard Grant Cardone on a couple of occasions talk about how cold calling is one of his most effective methods of getting business. And so when I started my business, I didn't have any business at all. So, got on the phone, started calling, but I did it differently. What I did is I identified a problem that people had, which was cash flow. Especially at the time, because I started my business around 2008 during the big crash. So cash flow was a big issue then. So since that was a problem that the customer had, I put together a PDF on solving cash flow problems. And what I did is I made cold calls asking business owners if they want to have this free PDF that I have on solving cash flow problems. And of course, on 5 occasions, because I got 5 clients from it, on 5 occasions, they went into deeper detail. So what else do you do? So what do you do? That kind of thing. And I got into it and I sold them. And so they became clients of mine. And believe it or not, this was back in 2008. 4 of them are still clients today. So,
I believe it.
Yeah. And so I have probably grossed about $700,000 or $800,000 of revenue since that time, at least, by making those cold calls. And so, so when Grant Cardone started talking about how effective it really is, I started thinking back to my situation, and not only that, clients that I have. The problem is, Dean, is that people spend probably 20% of their time staring at the phone, knowing they have to make a cold call.
That's where I have to stop you right now.
Go ahead, right there.
Because I have a story about that.
Right.
I was in the investment business, as you know, and there's more I'm going to talk about that and having to do with cold calling from my story.
Yeah.
But when I owned a brokerage firm, you would have in that business, the people that work for you are on straight commission. Okay. There's no draw, there's no salary, and they can make a ton of money. Like they could make 20 grand a month and more, and all they have to do is pick up the phone. And in that business, that's what it is. It's you pick up the phone and you make 300, 400, 500 dials a day. And so, and I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit, but I called my dad one time and I'm like, man, I just don't get it. I have these brokers working for me. I'm giving them every opportunity in the world. I tell them I'll close the deals for them. All they have to do is get people on the phone and I'll do it all for them, even to help them out to make money. And that's how people learn anyway, better than telling them, showing them.
Right.
And all they do is stare at the wall and they're not getting paid. They could be out doing something else and they're spending their whole day just sitting there staring at the wall. And we're talking before we had phones and stuff like that. So it's not even like they could be distracted by anything. Okay. There was nothing else they could do. They weren't even allowed to make personal calls because it was a landline. And so I called my dad and I'm like, who was a superstar salesperson himself. And I was like, I just don't get it. These people can make like 20 grand a month, and all they have to do is pick up the phone and they're staring at the wall. And his answer to me was some of the best advice he ever gave me. And he said, well, if they were you, they would be your competition, not your employees. Yeah, and that made a lot of sense, because basically, who are the people that end up in business for themselves? The people that are the top cold callers, not the people staring at the wall.
Right. That's right. It is amazing. And, you know, like I said, what I did is I put together a simple PDF based on a problem that I knew was out in the marketplace. And it made it easier for me to call, because I was giving away something of value. And it just so happened that on, you know, enough occasions, people would say, so what is it that you do? And I got into it to the point where, you know, I got them as a client. And, you know, it's funny because one of my clients that I cold called, that I still have today, always uses me as an example when he's talking to his salespeople. Because he never hired anybody off of a cold call. And somehow we were able, you know, I was able to sell him. And but you know, it's how I started my business. And you know, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I stopped cold calling, because I was getting referrals and generating business through the strategies that we've talked about on the show. So, you know, it hasn't been a key area for me, but I'm really giving it some serious thought going back to it, because I do believe it's very valuable. And the other thing, there is such a thing, and this is going to make everybody like gravitate to it. I probably shouldn't say it, but there is this thing called ringless voicemail, and it's not as good as a cold call. I just want to say that up front. But it's at least a telephone communication. And there are several CRMs that have ringless voicemail. The phone does not ring, but a voicemail is left. And so because it's hot, because I can tell you this, in 2018, I was able to reach business owners every fifth dial. Okay. Today, I'm not able to reach business owners until every 12th or 13th dial. It's harder to reach people today. So that's why ringless voicemail is potentially an option. Because first of all, it's your voice. You're leaving the voicemail. But you're not using their name, which is a disadvantage. But it is a voicemail, and it is personal contact. And, you know, you can follow it up with an email. You can follow it up with a LinkedIn message. You can follow it up with a text. So there's ways to, you know, follow up to the point where you sound more real instead of some scamming cold caller, especially when you follow it up with the other methods of communication. So that's really I found to be the most effective. I've always been a believer in multimedia, I call it. I don't know if that's really the proper way to say it, you know, but it's like using the telephone, using voicemail, using email, using LinkedIn messaging, using texting. This all makes you look legitimate. When you get scammy phone calls, they don't even leave a message usually.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, okay, the next dial or whatever.
I actually get a lot of spammies that leave me messages, and I'm like, that's
Really?
just dumb. I think it's dumb, because then you're just telling me you're scamming. I'm going to avoid it every time.
Right. So anyway, that I felt compelled to talk about probably the most fearful marketing strategy on earth.
Well, to me, I just want to say real quick, I think it's one of the best strategies out there. And people, you know, once you get used to it, you don't hate the cold calling. It's like funny. Once I got used to it, I didn't like going back. Because listen, in the investment business, perfect example, I used to buy these leads that were like $200 a name.
Yep. Wow.
And then I also used to buy this lead book, a very specific lead that was the cheapest lead ever in the industry, like the Dun and Bradstreet leads, and we had some other ones like that, 10 cents a name.
Whoa.
I made way more money off the 10 cent a name cold,
Wow.
and because they were cold calls, you were just cold calling people,
Right.
you know, than I did on the $200 a name, because the people that are requesting information, A, are looky-loos most of the time, B, they're requesting information from everybody, and they're already prepared to say no to you, you know, whereas the cold call, if you handle it properly, they're not prepared for it. You know, one of the dumbest things, I'm going to give people advice right now. One of the dumbest things you could do when you do a cold call is within the first 10 seconds is the most important. That's where you either catch their attention or they hang up. Do not spend that 10 seconds saying, I'm not here to sell you anything right now. You're starting the conversation on a lie. They know that's a lie. It's a stupid line. The other thing you don't want to start with is, how are you? They know you don't give a crap how they are. And you're just opening up the door for them to saying crappy. And now where do you go with that? So that's my two major cold calling advice skills right there, you know, and you just get on with them and get straight to the point and be upfront. They appreciate that. That's why I did so much business, because they were so used to salespeople getting on and like trying to pretend they're not selling anything, or try to pretend this, or, you know, just like you're taught when you go in the house to sell, to make a comment on somebody's artwork and stuff like that. People are pretty hip to that, and it just makes you look dishonest. Just say, hey, I'm calling you because of this.
Right.
Period.
Right.
And then they might listen because they're like, holy shit, excuse my language, but they're like, you know, oh my God, this must be something I want to listen to, because he's not trying to trick me into it or shit.
Yeah, that's right.
So
very good. Yes, no, that's very good. Very good. But I've always found it to be a difficult subject to talk about, because everybody gets squirmishy.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
The topic is brought up. But the way to find out more about what we do as fractional CFOs and strategic advisors is to go to my website, www.nextstepcfo.net. Go to hit the contact, go to the contact page at the top of the website, hit the contact button, fill out the form, and in the message center, put the words book interview. Love to interview business owners, get their industry perspective for the next edition of my book, because I'm always updating my book called Powerful Business Strategies, which I give away free on the website as well. And I'm always updating it because businesses are always changing. And we want to make sure that our strategies work for all different types of industries. So far they have, but we want to continue that process and make sure they still work. So nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the contact form, and in the message section, put book interview.
Well, they definitely need to reach out to you, because you always have some powerful business strategies. And thank you once again for being part of Positively Pipeman segment. And thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman here on W4CY Radio.
Thanks for having me, Dean.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.